Hello everyone, welcome to radiology cases tutorial. Today we are going to discuss the sonographic features of fetal common brain anomalies. So first of all, we are going to discuss the fetal brain anatomy. As here we can see the axial image of the head of a fetus, and this sonogram depicts the thalami. A pair of thalami is seen here, and here we can see the rectangular shaped structure which is the cavum septum pellucidum, and it is always an anechoic structure anterior to the thalami. And now here we can see the echogenic line which is dividing the brain into two equal parts, and this line is called falx cerebri. And this is a midline linear echogenic structure extending between the cerebral hemispheres. And this axial image of the head at the level of lateral ventricles demonstrates a bilateral choroid plexus which is seen here, which is filling the lateral ventricles, and it is a normal variation in filling the atrium of the lateral ventricle by the choroid plexus. And here we can see the choroid plexus fills the entire width of the lateral ventricles, abutting both the anterior and the medial ventricle wall. And now here we can see the incomplete filling of the lateral ventricles, and here we can see the small amount of fluid between the medial wall of the lateral ventricles and the medial surface of the choroid plexus, and this is considered the normal variant. When the lateral ventricle is normal in size, the choroid plexus typically fills at least 60% of the width of the normal lateral ventricles. And here we can see the normal measurement of the lateral ventricles, and in this axial image of the fetal head during the second trimester demonstrates the technique for measuring the lateral ventricles, and the width of the atrium of the ventricle is measured near the posterior aspect of the choroid plexus, and this measurement is about 5.8 mm, and this is considered normal, and its upper limit is about 10 mm. And now here we can see the axial image of the head which is tilted inferiorly toward the occipital, and it depicts the cerebellum here, and these are composed of two rounded hemispheres and the vermis in the midline. And here we can see the measurement of cisterna magna. This axial image of the head demonstrates the measurement of the cisterna magna from the posterior margin of the cerebellar vermis to the inside of the occipital bone, and its normal measurement is about 0.36 centimeter, and its normal range is between 0.2 and 1 centimeter. And now here we can see the cisterna magna septa, and this axial image of the head depicts a normal linear septa in the cisterna magna extending from the midline and from the junction between the vermis and the cerebellar hemispheres on each side posteriorly to the occipital bone. And here we can see the oblique image of the fetal head, and it shows here the fourth ventricle in the anterior portion of the posterior fossa. And now here we can see the dilated lateral ventricles. This one is the dangling choroid plexus. This axial image of the fetal head demonstrates the anterior portion of the choroid plexus along the medial wall of the lateral ventricle, with the remainder of the choroid plexus dangling toward the lateral wall of the lateral ventricles. And here you can see the choroid plexus is also diminutive in size, and here we can also see the diminutive choroid plexus. And here we can also see the axial image of the fetal head, and it shows markedly diminutive choroid plexus in the enlarged lateral ventricles. And now we are going to discuss the grading of the ventriculomegaly. The mild ventriculomegaly occurs between the range of 10 mm to 12 mm, and the moderate ventriculomegaly range from the 13 mm to 15 mm, and greater than 15 mm is considered severe ventriculomegaly. And here we can see the axial image of the head in the fetus shows the mildly dilated ventricles with the atrial width of 1.14 centimeter. And here we can see the moderately dilated ventricles with the atrial head measuring about 1.14 centimeter. And here we can see the severe ventriculomegaly with atrial width measuring about 2.57 centimeter. And now we are going to discuss the comparison of hydranencephaly versus hydrocephalus. Hydranencephaly is a rare condition in which the cerebral hemispheres are replaced with a large fluid-filled cavity secondary to the occlusion of the midline cerebral or the internal carotid arteries. But the hydranencephaly is a lethal condition, and the vast majority of the affected babies die in utero or within the first year of life. The presence of a thin rim of the preserved cortical tissues peripherally distinguishes the severe hydrocephalus from the hydranencephaly. As here we can see the coronal image of the fetal head at 28 weeks gestations, and it demonstrates a large fluid-filled cavity superior to the thalami, and here we can see the absence of rim of the cortical tissues, and it helped to distinguish the hydranencephaly from the severe hydrocephalus. And here we can see the severe hydrocephalus, and this axial image of the head of a fetus at 29 weeks gestations shows a severe hydrocephalus due to the aqueductal stenosis with markedly dilated lateral ventricles. And here we can see the thin peripheral rim of maintained cortical tissues which differentiate it from the hydranencephaly. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is the Schizencephaly. Schizencephaly is a rare disorder in which a brain defect lined by gray matter extends between the lateral ventricle and the cerebral cortex to communicate with the subarachnoid space. As here we can see the axial image of the fetal head, it shows the fluid filled cleft in the brain parenchyma, and these are extending up to the lateral ventricles to the brain surface. And here we can see the axial image of the head shows bilateral fluid filled clefts in the brain. And now we are going to discuss the arachnoid cyst. Arachnoid cyst is a fluid collection between the cerebral meninges that does not communicate with the lateral ventricles. It can be found in numerous locations along the brain, such as in the cerebral fissures, posterior fossa, or suprasellar region, and over the cerebral convexity. And here we can see the oblique image of the fetal head, and it demonstrates a large cystic structure in the parietal region, which is corresponding to the arachnoid cyst. And now we are going to discuss the choroid plexus cyst. A choroid plexus cyst is the most common cystic brain lesion identified at the antenatal sonography, and it is associated with an increased risk of trisomy 18. And if, however, the fetus has a normal karyotype, the choroid plexus cyst is not associated with adverse sequelae. As here we can see the axial image of the fetal head, and it shows bilateral choroid plexus cysts which are seen here, and these choroid plexus cysts increase the risk of trisomy 18. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is anencephaly. Anencephaly is a lethal anomaly characterized by the absence of the calvarium and the fetal brain above the level of the orbits. As here we can see the image of the fetus head shows the absence of the calvarium and the normal appearing brain tissues above the level of the orbits. As here we can see the orbits above the level of the orbits, the calvarium is absent. And here we can see the coronal image of the fetal head, and it shows no calvarium above the level of the orbits, and there is a large amount of dysmorphic appearing tissues corresponding to the angiomatous trauma that is extending superiorly and lateral to the head. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is acrania. Acrania is the presence of a large amount of dysmorphic tissue resembling the brain above the orbits in the absence of calvarium, skin, and the normal brain. As with the anencephaly, acrania is considered lethal. When the soft tissue extending laterally above the orbits, the configuration of the craniofacial structures in the coronal skin plane has been likened to a Mickey Mouse sign. As here we can see the parasagittal view of the fetus with the acrania, and it shows the absence of calvarium above the level of orbits, and a large amount of dysmorphic tissue resembling the brain tissue above the orbits is seen. And here we can see the coronal view of the head of the fetus, and it demonstrates a large amount of soft tissue resembling the brain tissue extending superior and laterally above the orbits in a configuration that has been likened to a head and ears of the Mickey Mouse sign. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is encephalocele. A cephalocele is a protrusion of the intracranial structures through a calvarial defect. The term cephalocele includes both the cranial meningocele, which contains the meninges and the cerebrospinal fluid, and encephalocele, which contains the meninges, cerebrospinal fluid, and the brain tissues. The cephalocele ranges in size from a small focus of meninges that extends through a tiny defect in the calvarium to the herniation of nearly entire brain and the meninges through a large open defect involving most of the calvarium. As here we can see the sagittal image of the fetal head, and it demonstrates a small occipital encephalocele which is protruding through a small calvarial defect which is visible here. And here we can see the axial image of the fetal head at 18 weeks gestations. It shows a large encephalocele and including the bilateral choroid plexus, which are herniating through a large calvarial defect. And now we are going to discuss the Dandy-Walker abnormality. Dandy-Walker malformation consists of cystic dilatation of the fourth ventricle, which communicates with a large fluid space in the posterior fossa through a defect in the cerebellar vermis. As here we can see the axial image of the fetal head at the level of posterior fossa that shows a Dandy-Walker abnormality with the cystic dilatation of the fourth ventricle, which can be seen here, and it is communicating with the fluid space in the posterior fossa through a defect in the cerebellar vermis that is resulting in a splaying of the cerebellar hemispheres. And here we can see the Dandy-Walker abnormality, which is associated with the agenesis of the corpus callosum, and this one is the oblique image of the fetal head. And here we can see the choroid plexus, and here we can see the lateral ventricles, and here we can see the cystic dilatation of the fourth ventricle in a posterior fossa, and the fluid collection can be seen here, and the agenesis of the cerebellar vermis resulting in supplying of the cerebral hemispheres is consistent with the Dandy-Walker abnormality. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is the cisterna magna. Cisterna magna refers to the cisterna magna with AP diameter of more than 10 mm in the absence of evidence of Dandy-Walker or the cerebellar vermis abnormality. And here we can see the axial image of the fetal head, and it shows a large cisterna magna, and it is measuring about 1.27 centimeter in the anterior posterior diameter. And here we can see the normal configuration of cerebellar hemispheres and the vermis with no evidence of Dandy-Walker abnormality. And now we are going to discuss another fetal brain anomaly, which is the vein of Galen malformation. Vein of Galen malformation is the abnormal fluid collection in the posterior fossa, and the vein of the Galen malformation corresponds to the dilatation of the vein of Galen due to the increased blood flow through communications between the branches of the carotid or the vertebrobasilar system and the venous plexus in the region of the vein of Galen. As here we can see the grayscale, and this one is a color Doppler image which is showing the vein of Galen malformation. And this axial image of the fetal head shows a rounded midline cystic structure in the brain, which is connecting a tubular cystic structure that courses posteriorly. And this one is the same axial image with the color Doppler corresponding to this one, and it reveals the abnormal cystic structures in the head. It reveals that the abnormal cystic structures in the head are the vascular, and these are consistent with vein of Galen malformation. And now we are going to discuss another brain anomaly, which is the intracranial lipoma. As here we can see the axial image of the fetal head during the third trimester, and it demonstrates an ovoid midline hyperechoic mass in the region of interhemispheric fissure, and it is corresponding to the intracranial lipoma. And here we can see the epidural hematoma. This one is the axial image of the head of the fetus, and here we can see a well-defined intracranial mass with the heterogeneous internal echoes that is causing the hydrocephalus with the dilatation of the lateral ventricles and the third ventricle, and postnatal evaluation revealed it as an epidural hematoma.